Hi guys, I figured I would film one last pregnancy update during the pregnancy. I'm currently 36 weeks pregnant at the time of recording this, but by the time it releases, I will probably be 39 weeks, so I don't know if I will have the baby or not by the time this comes out. I'll pin a comment to let you guys know. But either way, if there are any questions that you have about pregnancy or about delivery or postpartum, just let me know, just pop those down below and I'll try to answer them in the postpartum glow up video that I have planned, which I'm actually really excited for. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But without further ado, in today's video, I'm going to talk about the latter half of pregnancy, what I found most surprising about pregnancy, and how I'm preparing for postpartum. So the second half of pregnancy has been pretty smooth, as well as the first half. I did find out the sex of the baby, but I actually decided I won't be sharing it. And my reasons for this are twofold. First of all, there are just so many creeps online, and I just want them to know as little as possible about my child. And secondly, I'm just wanting to hold myself accountable to not overshare about my child's life. And I figured if I'm not even sharing their gender, then it's going to be a lot harder to talk about them. You know, if I do mention something about them, it'll have to be just my child this, because I'll even be limited from saying he or she. So I won't be sharing the sex. Maybe somewhere down the line, I'll change my mind about that, or it'll be too hard, but as of right now, I've decided not to. Around 19 weeks is when I felt like the very first real kick. Before that, it kind of feels like bubbling a little bit and you're not quite sure, like, is it a kick, is it not? And then all of a sudden one day it's just like knock, knock. And it's like, whoa, it's an awesome feeling. Around 23 to 25 weeks is when I started to show a little bit in clothes. But still by that point, people weren't really looking too closely, or like if people didn't know me too well, they still couldn't quite tell. It wasn't until after about 30 weeks that I really started to look undeniably pregnant in public. So this would actually be a good segue into the most surprising things about pregnancy. One of which is just how late I started showing. I posted on my TikTok a before and after of me at 16 weeks versus 28. And I was just shocked that at 16 weeks, I thought I was already showing a little bit. I mean, I did look a little bit different than I did before I got pregnant, but it was just like so not noticeable to the average person, to anyone other than me. And so it was just funny that like back then I was like, oh, can people tell I look pregnant? When it was like, no, absolutely not. They cannot. I hear that with your first pregnancy, that's more common to show later, and then with following pregnancies, your uterus expands a little bit faster. Another thing that went along with that was super surprising was how I didn't actually need that much maternity clothing. I was in like my first trimester already looking for maternity clothes just so I would be ready, and I didn't end up needing much. In terms of what I wear at home, I literally didn't need anything different because I wear like pajama pants, and I just wear them like under the baby bump. And I also wear like very oversized shirts anyway inside the home. So those still fit me now at 36. Actually, let me show you guys the baby bump. I realized I didn't give you an update. So this is what 36 weeks looks like. And then in terms of like outside the home, I did need a few pairs of yoga pants and a few pairs of just like going out pants. A few shirts like this one that have like a little bit more room in the belly area. But honestly, I still wear a lot of my pre-pregnancy clothes, and it just has a bigger belly, like even some crop tops I'll sometimes wear with like high-waisted pants, and it works. Something else that was surprising about pregnancy was that I was able to keep my fitness routine almost unchanged to what it was. This is definitely not possible for everyone. Some women have like complications during pregnancy where they're bedridden or they can't work out. For me, the only modifications I made were no more ab exercises that are like lying down. So things like crunches, leg raises, and no more planks, because those can cause your abs to stay split apart for longer after you deliver. But I continue to do a lot of standing Pilates, standing cardio, kickboxing, walking. So my fitness routine is pretty much unchanged. And if anything, I feel like I'm going to be coming out of this pregnancy a little bit stronger and more fit because obviously I have more weight on me. So really, if you think about it, I'm working harder during these workouts. And then there were a lot of changes that I expected and symptoms that I expected that just never came. I've had no food cravings up until this point. I was expecting to suddenly have this irrational desire for a random food. Didn't happen. The only thing that I want every single day, I wouldn't necessarily call it a craving, but it's something that I definitely feel the urge to have even multiple times a day, is dark chocolate. And I wonder if this is because I, at one point, became a little bit anemic during pregnancy because I don't eat red meat. Dark chocolate contains a good amount of iron. And also I heard that eating dark chocolate every day of your pregnancy can be really protective against things like preeclampsia. So maybe it's my body telling me, you should have this. This is good for you. I also did not have any morning sickness. I recently did experience a bout of food poisoning, and that was awful. And I was just like, how do women do this sometimes for the entirety of the pregnancy? How do they withstand this nausea? Because this is awful. You ladies are very strong who have had to deal with that. Explain to me how you managed, because that really speaks to your resilience. I also haven't noticed much of a difference in terms of my fatigue, in terms of my GI functioning, in terms of breathlessness. So a ton of the symptoms that everyone was fear-mongering me about never came around. But I did experience some changes in the second half of pregnancy, some of which I didn't expect. The biggest one is congestion or rhinitis. My nose has been so incredibly stuffed, it's insane. I go through so many boxes of tissues. There were certain periods, certain weeks where I literally couldn't breathe at night. Other times when I would wake up gasping for air at nighttime because I taped my mouth shut and my nose was so stuffed. I also started snoring, which I guess is probably related to my lungs being compressed and having more weight around my core. I do occasionally get acid reflux, but it's, nothing terrible. It is getting very hard to turn or get out of bed. That for me, I think is the hardest part, honestly. Just getting up to go use the restroom at nighttime. Also, I do get some joint pain at nighttime because I have to lay on my side, specifically my left side. And I guess with all the extra weight on my body, it all kind of compresses on my joints. And also a little bit of joint pain while walking sometimes. One thing that I was not expecting, that was a very welcome surprise, was kind of reverse body dysmorphia. So allow me to explain. I feel like now during pregnancy, when I look back at images of myself pre-pregnancy, I see myself realistically for the first time in my life. I see myself probably the way other people saw my body. That when I had that body, I could not tell that that's how I looked to other people. I never realized how tiny I was before. I hear from a lot of expecting moms that it makes them anxious to step on the scale every time they go to the doctor and to see the number growing. And I feel like having had body image issues in the past, I am much more prepared for those changes than moms who have never felt that way before. Because sometimes it's whoa, that's a big jump on the scale. I feel like I've done a lot of work because of my previous eating disorder, just mentally preparing for that. And the way I see it, it's this is normal. The vast majority of the weight that you're seeing go up on the scale is not body fat per se. It's, yes, the fetus, it's also amniotic fluid, it's your uterus expanding, blood volume, water retention, all these different things. The vast majority is not body fat. The vast majority is going to drop. You're going to drop 15 pounds just from the delivery itself, and then another 5 by the time you get home. So being able to understand that rationally and not freak out about the number on the scale has been surprising, I guess. You would expect someone with a history of body image issues to struggle with it more, but I guess because I've had those struggles in the past, I struggle with it less. And also I love just passing by the mirror and seeing the fact that my body's changing, that my belly's growing. These are happy changes. For the first time in my life, I look in the mirror and I'm happy about the way that my body's changing because it means there's a little baby growing in there. And I feel after this pregnancy, if I weigh a little bit more than I did before it, it will have kind of rewired my brain a little bit to be okay with that and to realize like you can weigh a little bit more and still feel beautiful. One thing that I was not expecting that is really on my mind these days is I did not expect my baby to not move out of breech, which is when the head is up, somewhere around like 30 weeks. Ideally, the baby moves head down into the pelvis to prepare for childbirth, and mine has not. I don't know the reason why they have not, but it's certainly making me anxious because it's putting into question whether I can have a natural delivery or whether I will need a C-section. And what makes this even more complicated is that I live in a country where they do allow natural births if a baby is in breech. So the decision's kind of on me, and I think that there are advantages and disadvantages to both route. I don't feel super strongly about it. I wouldn't be super upset if I needed to get a C-section. But what is stressful is everything that I've been trying to do in order to get the baby out of breech. Just like the pressure of needing to decide, like, what am I gonna do? So I've been doing like all the stretches that they recommend. I've been, bouncing on a birthing ball, laying upside down with glute bridges, puppy poses, all of that. I had 3 rounds of acupuncture, which is supposed to be evidence-based for this. I have reasoned with my child, and still they are stubborn. And so tomorrow morning, actually, I have to go get what's called an ECV procedure, which is where they manually try to move the baby, turn head down. And it's pretty scary because there are some risks associated with it, and you never know, like maybe there's an anatomical reason why the baby is still in breech that they can't be head down. Like some people have short umbilical cord, some people don't have enough amniotic fluid. Sometimes the shape of your uterus doesn't allow for a natural birth that way. So yeah, wish me luck. I mean, by the time this will have been a thing of the past. But fingers crossed that it goes well tomorrow. If it's unsuccessful, then they're going to take like a scan of my basin, I think it's called, like the uterus, I guess, to see if I can still do a natural delivery. But even if I can, I might need to decide, do I want a C-section or not? Something else that happened that I was not expecting was week 33 of my pregnancy. I had a very traumatic family emergency. Luckily, that is resolved now, but it was really scary to think about the possible effect on my baby of that stress, because I know that severe stress is not good during pregnancy. So that was unexpected. I also didn't expect to experience like a particular flavor of misogyny during pregnancy. Some people have suggested I should lay off parenting topics because I'm pregnant, and clearly that's clouding my judgment on parenting topics. And I find that to be incredibly misogynistic. I mean, to literally tell a woman, because you're pregnant, you don't have a right to talk about this, or because you're pregnant, it's clouding your judgment, or you can't think straight. Like, come on. Just because you disagree with me on something too. Also, people suggesting that I'm hormonal when I'm literally not. I mean, yes, technically your hormones are different during pregnancy, but your hormones are always different as a woman based on the point in your cycle and what else is going on in your life. There's no normal baseline hormonal level for a woman. So when women say that they're hormonal, or other people tell them they're hormonal, I'm like, what exactly does that mean to you? I guess that's another thing I was expecting that never came. I haven't had any mood swings. I don't experience higher than usual amounts of sadness or anger or weepiness or any of it. So I really don't feel hormonal in the sense that people say it, which is more emotional than usual. So it's pretty invalidating to hear people say, oh, you're just hormonal, when I literally know I'm not being more emotional than usual. And actually, some of the hormonal changes happening during pregnancy have also been shown to cause some women to be more chill than usual. And I do feel like that's kind of been the case. The people that know me closely, they do tend to say I'm even more mellow during pregnancy. And so I think we need to dispel this notion that women during pregnancy are so emotional that they can't think straight, because it is not really how things work. And maybe for some women, they do feel more emotional, but we can't just assume that that's the case because somebody's pregnant. And we certainly can't use it to dismiss their perspective. I am honestly a little bit more worried about the postpartum hormone crash gosh, I am worried about some of the mental health concerns that I had before I got pregnant returning. I feel like for some women, pregnancy can be protective of mental and emotional well-being. Then I have, of course, a few antinatalists on my psychology page who try shaming me for choosing to have a child. Good fucking luck with that one. And then just like random judgment that I've encountered about my birth plan. I wasn't expecting that because I'm a person who I don't have very strong preferences about anything. I don't have very strong preferences about C-section versus natural delivery, unmedicated versus medicated delivery. I see the pros and cons of all of them. I would never judge a woman for what she chooses to do, but I'm learning there are a lot of people who would judge a woman for what she chooses to do. And that was just kind of surprising for me because I was like, I'm not passing judgment on anyone else, so kind of strange that they're passing judgment on me. Anyway, the deeper I get into pregnancy, the more I'm just visualizing what life will be like with my little one, the more I really want to know what they look like. We have almost everything set up. We have the bassinet, we have strollers, we have toys, we have bath stuff. Both me and my husband have been dreaming more about what our child will maybe look like. Some of them are anxiety dreams about childbirth starting to pop up, just different things that could go wrong. And I'm starting to feel a little bit ready for postpartum. I have loved being pregnant. It's been a very positive experience for me personally. I know that's not everyone's experience, but I've loved it. I wouldn't shorten it if I had the option to. However, I do also think once this baby's out of me, I will be happy about some of the things I'm getting back in life, particularly oysters, sushi, being able to have a glass of wine. Also going to the sauna cold plunge. It's been so long since I did that and I miss it. I'm gonna have sushi the second I give birth. And like I was saying at the beginning of the video, I'm really excited to have a postpartum glow up. What I mean by that is once 6 weeks have passed and I'm cleared to start working out again, I can't wait to start doing ab workouts again, to get some fitness goals. Not that I feel a pressure to bounce back or anything. I don't feel that pressure. It excites me, the idea of having a new project to take on. I'm also excited to just go on walks with the stroller in my cottagecore dresses to get my skincare routine back, because when you're pregnant there are a lot of ingredients that you can't use. So it's very different how I feel from the shame-filled pressure that you hear often about bouncing back postpartum. I see it as just a really fun goal to achieve and an opportunity to get my body back fully for myself. And for now, I'm just kind of training for labor. I guess we'll find out tomorrow if I'm going to have a C-section or not. So some of this I won't need to do if I end up having a C-section. But if I end up giving birth naturally, then I've just been doing a lot of breathing exercises for how I'm going to breathe and push during contractions, specific workouts and walking, specific stretches, pelvic floor training. I've been eating dates because that's supposed to shorten the length of childbirth. And I'll also start having raspberry leaf tea soon if I don't end up needing a C-section. And also just going into the mindset of contractions are only a minute long. You can do anything for a minute. And every single contraction gets you closer to bringing your baby into this world. So that is a positive pain. It's a type of pain that serves a function. So that's how I'm training for labor. Like I said, if you have any other questions about pregnancy, delivery, postpartum, pop them down below and I will answer them in the postpartum glow up video in the Q&A portion. If you yourself are pregnant, best of luck. Congratulations. Hope yours is smooth as well. And I'll see you soon.
Tell me what you need, tell me what you need, tell me what you need, tell me.